Tonight on the SDG-Hub, we'll be discussing the topic Fishing for Solutions, Overfishing in Ghana's Waters. And to discuss this, we have Dr. Eunice Kanadu Asamoah, lecturer at the Department of Marine and Fisheries Sciences, University of Ghana, and Dr. Angela Manekuor Lamptey, senior lecturer at the Department of Marine and Fisheries Sciences, University of Ghana. Business PM is proudly brought to you kind courtesy Sustainable Transformation Center for Sustainable Transformation. This is the SDG Hub, and of course, every Tuesday we discuss opportunities and solutions for everyday business to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, as we call them for short. I'm your host once again, Emmanuel Aboagye-Wiafe, and together with
Rosemary Balami.
Rosemary Balami is from the Young Reporters for the Environment, YRE, also at the Center for Sustainable Transformation. Now, what happens when we get to the point where we are unable to have one of the main sources of protein for our delicious foods like kenke or wachi? That sounds alarming, right? Well, today we are going to take a look at a very pressing issue affecting the fisheries sector, which is also known as overfishing. Overfishing remains a pressing concern for Ghana's fishing industry, posing significant threats to both the environment and the livelihoods of coastal communities. The country has one of the highest rates of dependence on fish for nutrition in Africa, with fish providing 60% of animal protein intake and an estimated annual consumption of 25 kilograms per capita. Now, this shows a decrease from the 40 kilogram per capita consumption recorded in the 1970s because of diminishing fish harvests and insufficient supply of affordable fish.
Yes, Emmanuel, overfishing is a big challenge for Ghana. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing activities are responsible for the loss of 11 to 26 million tons of fish each year globally, which is estimated to have an economic value of 10 to 23 billion US dollars. Globally, 90% of fish stock are overfished or fully exploited. According to the Ghana Seafood Report, the demand for seafood led to Ghana importing 290 million worth of seafood in 2021. As about 10% of the country's population, approximately 3 million people are engaged in various aspects of the fishing industry. It is an important economic sector that the population depends on. The BBC reported that an estimated 90% of industrial fishing vessels in Ghanaian waters are foreign, meaning profits. And in some situations, even the fish flows out of the country. Efforts to stop illegal fishing have not showed considerable results. As Ghana's population is constantly growing, the demand for fish is increasing as well.
Rosemary, that's quite alarming.
Yes.
Well, we are pleased to be joined in the studios tonight by seasoned experts who will help us delve into the implications of overfishing in Ghana, shedding light on the far-reaching consequences it has on the country's fishing sector and the economy, and the urgent need for sustainable practices. Our guest tonight, Dr. Eunice Kanadu Asamoah, lecturer at the Department of Marine and Fisheries Sciences, University of Ghana. Good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
All right. We also have another doctor, Dr. Angela Manekuor Lamptey, senior lecturer also at the Department of Marine Fisheries Sciences, University of Ghana. Good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
All right. Thank you very much for making time. We want to start this, and like we do it always, we want to know a little about your schedule, your daily schedules. What do you do at the department? Let me start with you, Dr. Lamptey.
Thank you very much. A very good evening to all your listeners and to everybody here. You want to know a day in the life of
exactly.
a lecturer? Okay, so we do a lot. We teach, we research, and then we play roles on national committees. And at the moment, for me, my research areas include contemporary issues in Ghana's fishing industry, including IUU fishing. I'm also looking at the impacts of mining activities on our inland water bodies at the moment. Okay. I'm also looking at seabirds fisheries interactions. I'm looking at water quality, of our surface waters as well as the oceans. And currently, I am the chairperson of the Scientific and Technical Committee of the Fisheries Commission. Okay. So that's a mouthful.
I was going to say that.
A third of what I do every day.
Okay. And
Thank you very much.
How do you combine that with your normal, home duties?
I do magic.
All right. Let's also know more about you, Doc, with what you do.
Yes. So, like my colleague said, it's teaching and all the magic But my main research focus is in fish production, sustainable fish production, and what happens post-harvest. So from when the fish is harvested till it gets to your plate. So I look at the quality and the safety of the fish, different processing methods that are used, and then the sustainability of the fisheries, because it's, as you said, it's livelihood for a lot of people. So how we manage the fish, and if we manage the fish post-harvest well, then we don't have to go back and catch a lot of fish. So that is my research. And I'm also a member of the Fisheries Management Operational Committee of the Fisheries Commission.
Wow.
Okay, that's very impressive of both of you. All right, so we want to start a discussion, and I'm going to start with you, Dr. Angela Lamptey. Now, I was in Elmina over the weekend, and we happened to be at the seashore, very close to the castle. And we went to the fish market, and they were talking about the fact that these days they don't have different species of fish, and it's worrying for them, because it's like when they go out, they expect to get more, but they just get scanty, catch. Why is it so? Could it be due to overfishing, or just because the fishes are not there?
The good thing is that the fishermen themselves know why they are not getting the high diversity.
Really?
Yes, it's as a result of illegal fishing. Of course, when it comes to overfishing, there's an aspect of illegal fishing. So they know very well. I mean, if you go to sea and you are fishing with lights, you are fishing with explosive, with dynamite, you are fishing with small meshed nets. Some of them even go with nets as small meshed as the mosquito net. You go to sea with monofilament nets, which is not allowed in the ocean.
Okay.
What do you expect?
Wow.
You catch more than you are supposed to catch. Eventually, the resource would get depleted. So they know why they are catching, small catches, or they even know why the diversity has reduced. They know why.
Wow. Now, can you quickly give us an overview of the current state of overfishing in Ghana's industry and the implications?
Thank you very much. So currently, overfishing is high to the extent that the small pelagics that we used to land in large quantities during the major upwelling between July and September, and the minor upwelling in January has reduced to the extent that our small pelagic stocks are virtually collapsing.
Wow. Yes,
and during the upwelling seasons, you hardly find sardinella, you hardly find anchovy. Anchovy is commonly known as Keta schoolboys.
Okay.
Some 20, 30 years back, we had Keta schoolboys all year round. We had sardines all year round. Now, these are species that you hardly find, all because of overfishing.
That's sad.
So at the moment, when it comes to overfishing, it is the small pelagics that are really suffering, mainly the sardinellas and the anchovies.
Okay. And so how do you think overfishing has affected the livelihoods of Ghanaian fishermen and the communities which are reliant on the industry?
Absolutely. It tells even in their economic settings, it tells in their social status. Like I said, some years back, a fisherman could land fish and sell and even get about 70,000 cedis from one catch. Now, some of them could go, an artisanal fisherman could go fishing for like 8 hours and come back with an empty net, or comes back with a net full of plastics, or comes back with a net, especially in the western region, full of sargassum, algae. So at the end of the day, you realize that you spend money to buy fuel for your outboard motor. Maybe the outboard motor is not even yours, you rented it. You spend money to rent or hire a canoe. You spend money to hire crew to help you to fish. And then you come back with an empty net. Come on.
Well, YRE went to speak to some Jamestown fishermen regarding this issue. Yes, what they had to say. Let's take a listen.
How many years have you been fishing, and what kind of fish have you been typically catching?
I've been a fisherman for almost 40 years, and many years ago when we wanted to catch fish, we could catch any type of fish we wanted without any hindrances. We particularly often caught a type of fish called kankama, but in recent times the fish that we get is by force fish. meaning that we struggle to catch what we desire. And even if we catch fish, it is in very small quantities.
What do you think is causing this?
There's a new machine being used by the Chinese, I think, that depletes the fish in the areas that we fish at. So by the time we set out with our canoes to fish, there's nothing to catch.
What changes do you want to see going forward?
Those machines need to be taken from the sea. When I started fishing decades ago, fishing was easier for us. Now all the fish is gone by the time we even get there. They are using heavy machines and light to bait the fish to catch. Previously, they used to do deep season fishing, but now they fish near our areas. By morning, we don't get anything left to catch. This is something that wasn't common in my early days as a fisherman. So we could catch what we desired. Now it is difficult to track the seasons of the fish because these machines using light to fish underwater has disrupted everything. We've complained to government for 8 to 10 years now, but nothing has changed. So we are looking forward to catching some more fish in August. Hopefully we get what we want.
Well, those were some of the concerns and grievances of fishermen in the Jamestown fishing community. Quite alarming. So now let me come to you, Dr. Eunice. We heard during the introduction that the market for fish in Ghana is huge. So what are the social and economic implications of overfishing for our local communities, particularly in terms of employment, poverty and inequality?
Okay, so thank you. I'll just follow from just the interview that you did.
Yeah.
They go, they don't get the fish. And so that is one of the things. 10% of the population are employed along the fisheries chain. So it's not just the fishermen, the processors, the transporters, all the way to the distributors and the guests to you. Now, if there's no fish, all their livelihoods are at stake.
Yeah.
So one of the main challenges is that they need the fish. And so they try all these means to get the fish. And in doing that, they get less and less and less.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the implications, it goes throughout. So 3-point-something million people's livelihoods are at stake just because of overfishing.
So what do you think are the long-term consequences, if this whole overfishing is not checked?
If it's not checked, as species, our stocks are going to collapse. As Dr. Lamptey said, our sardinella and the small pelagics, anchovies. Sardinella, now you hardly find them. The mackerel, what we call salmon, you hardly find them. Most of what you find on the markets are imported.
Wow.
So if it goes unchecked, then we are going to lose all these fishes. Somewhere in the 80s, we had this Erefua. I think you don't know. You know Erefua, yes. Erefua, it was just processed like Kobe, and it was very nice. It crashed. And since then, you can't find a refu on the. If you find it, very small quantities, all because of some of these issues. So if you don't put a stop to overfishing, we are going to lose most of these stocks. And what we have to do is to import. And so it's going to be a burden on the government also. Yes.
Well, it's quite unfortunate. But overfishing is a global phenomenon and not done solely by local fishermen alone. What role do international markets and demand play in driving overfishing in Ghana, and how can this be addressed, Dr. Angela?
Thank you very much. Okay, so first of all, I would like to draw attention to the fact that overfishing is not only in Ghana, it's not only in West Africa, it is global by nature. If you want to be sure, you can watch this movie that was uploaded on Netflix 2 years ago, Seaspiracy. So in your spare time, Seaspiracy. In your spare time, just download it and watch it. And they talk about illegal fishing from Europe, from Belize.
Oh, so it's global.
From France, from Faroe Islands, and then to West Africa. West Africa was the last place they even visited. And it was produced by a British filmmaker. And you can imagine the risk he put his life in trying to unravel overfishing as well as drug trafficking, human trafficking, and other crimes. And it is global by nature. So, and then you realize that though the European Union is trying to regulate us, they are the worst perpetrators of IUU fishing. Yes, and from our Department of Marine and Fisheries
mention of IUU. What's the full description for
illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. So the fishing activity is illegal. And for that matter, it is not reported. And because it's not reported, it cannot be regulated. That is IUU fishing. And overfishing is a subset of IUU fishing. So it is global by nature, and you realize that European vessels are even the worst perpetrators of IUU fishing of illegal fishing, followed by these Asians and then some African vessels. Of course, Ghana is not an exception, but I have to tell you, emphatically, that our vessels that are involved in illegal fishing are in the minimum.
Okay.
Most of these industrial vessels are not even owned by Ghanaians. So why do they say Ghanaians are involved in illegal fishing? Most of these foreign vessels are owned by foreigners.
Wow.
Yes.
So Ghanaians are just fronting for them, right?
Ghanaians are just fronting for them, most of the time, basically. But Ghanaians don't own solely these vessels.
Wow. So, policies are one of the effective ways to tackle this phenomenon, for instance. And the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, Howard Kumsin, officially announced the 2023 close season from July to August. This is not the first time Ghana has done something like this. So how effective has this directive been in tackling overfishing? And what more can be done, Dr. Eunice?
Okay. So as you said, over the close season, this is not the first time. It started 2016. And it was mostly for the industrial, the trawlers, and then for the tuna fisheries. And somewhere in 2019, the artisanals were also part of it. And for the industrial, sometimes 2 months, 3 months. For the artisanal, it's 1 month. So the month of July. And so 2019 happened, but 2020 COVID came, and then everybody was like, no, we can't stay home for 1 month. So 2022, 2023 is going to happen. Now, the main background for this was the time that was selected is the time where most of these species will spawn. That is when they will lay eggs. So we want to give them a chance to be able to lay the eggs, for the eggs to be in the water, so that when you go catching, you can catch the adults, but the small ones would have a time to also mature so that we can catch it. So as a policy, it's very, very good that we all have to support. And this year is going to happen again.
As she announced. So now let's look at the food security, challenges aspect. How does this whole overfishing contribute to Ghana's food security?
Okay. So you said in your introduction that 60% of our protein is from fish. And our per capita consumption, 25%, is even higher than the world average, so it's very high. So Ghana is a fish-consuming country. We get a lot from fish. Now with overfishing, we are getting less and less of the fish. And so we have to make up, and that is where the imports come in. And the main thing is that we export our valuable fishes so that we are able to import the small pelagic, the purpose fish. So the sardines and then the mackerel, we import it in a lot quantities. And then our tunas and our red fishes and all those ones that are very nice, we have to export so that we get money.
So is it like a barter trade or something?
Yes, we export, we get money, and then we have to import because we need fish. Because currently the production from the marine sector, which is the largest, if you add aquaculture and everything, it's not enough to meet our demands. So we have to import. And so if you are overfishing and it keeps going down, catches keep going down, then we have to import more and more and more. So we have to invest in that avenue. So that will also impact on the food security. And one last thing is that Dr. Lamptey talked about using chemicals to fish. So the quality of the fish itself is also impacted. So if you use poison, if you use formalin, if you use all that, fish that we are going to consume, it means that the health of the consumers is also at risk.
Now, Dr. Lamptey, the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development will be scaling up electronic monitoring to all licensed industrial vessels which are operating in Ghana's waters. That's by the year 2025. This is to help measure what species are caught, where they are caught, and how much. Now, would you say we are moving in the right direction in this way? And are there any successful initiatives or sustainable fishing practices that have been implemented?
Definitely, we are moving in the right direction. This is one of the recommendations the Scientific and Technical Committee made to the ministry, that if we want to monitor exactly how fishing is done, if we want to get to the root of what is caught out, then we need to monitor 100% electronically. So that is why we are going, 100% electronic. So the electronic monitoring has started already, but some of the vessels have had their AIS's faults. So we have funding to install the transponders for even the inshore vessels as well, to the extent that, yes, we want to monitor even the fishing activities of the inshore vessels. Those are the semi-industrial vessels. They are between the artisanals and the industrial, to the extent that we want to know exactly what they also catch, because they keep blaming the industrial vessels for illegal fishing.
Exactly.
But let's look at some statistics here. We have more than 12,175 registered artisanal vessels. We have 250 operational semi-industrial vessels, 20 operational tuna vessels, at the moment 41 operational trawlers, and we don't even have shrimpers at all this time. Look at the numbers. When you put all of them together, when you put the semi-industrial and the artisanals together, they are not even up to a quarter of artisanal fishers. We have more artisanal fishers than even the rest. So at the end of the day, when you look at the quantities that each fleet even takes out, putting them together, you realize that the artisanals even take more than what the others take. Now, if they are saying that the industrial vessels are engaging in illegal fishing, who is encouraging it? When they catch the bycatch and they want to discard them, these artisanals go near the vessels and then take them. We call it transshipment.
Okay, at sea.
So yes, at sea. So when you do that, you are encouraging them to even take more bycatch, because then you also get your catch. And what they use to justify why they do the transshipment is that when they go fishing, they don't get fish. But bear in mind, they all have different fishing grounds. The industrial vessels, especially the trawlers, are supposed to fish in grounds not less than 30 meter depth. Not less than 30 meter depth. The semi-industrials are within 10 to 29 to 30 meter depth. And then the artisanals are near shore. So in the first place, you are using different fishing grounds. Where is the conflict?
Well, that's something. Now, in the interview we had with the local fishermen earlier, some of them touched on the use of artisanal fishing. That's the traditional ways, which consists of various small-scale, low-technology, low-capital fishing practices. Now, so what role can technology and innovation play in reducing the toll of overfishing in Ghana's industry, apart from this electronic monitoring?
Apart from the electronic monitoring, I mean, they are supposed to use sonars, they are supposed to use eco finders to find their fish. And then, of course, with artisanals, they don't have targeted species. They take everything within their reach. So for them, we can't even tell them take this much or that much or take only this species, because for them, the gears they deploy are not targeted to any particular species. Unlike the trawlers, who are licensed to catch only demersal species. When we say demersal, we are looking at fish species that live at the bottom. So their net is a trawl net. They actually drag the net on the bottom to catch, just the bottom species. So that is what happens. And with the inshore vessels or the semi-industrial vessels, they also have various gears that they also deploy. That is also not selective in nature, except the drift gilded, which is supposed to catch large pelagics like the sailfishes, the swordfishes, the marlins, and then the tunas.
Wow. That's a very interesting revelation.
I wish I could go fishing or sea one day.
No. So, Dr. Eunice, back to you. You made mention that, livelihoods have been affected. So what are some potential alternative livelihood options for Ghanaian fishermen and fishing communities affected by overfishing? How can these be supported and, implemented?
Okay. So for alternative livelihoods, there are so many programs. There's so many of them. They train in beekeeping, in snail rearing. So all over the place, there are so many NGOs that are bringing out alternative livelihoods. The main problem is that for fishermen, they see themselves as hunters. So they don't want to do anything that has to do with farming. And so as hunters, they want to be consulted. So some of these alternative livelihoods, it doesn't work because they feel like they're not consulted. It's imposed upon them. So you impose upon them, you give them what they need, the tools. Within a month, they are very good with it, and then they leave it because they think that it's not sustainable. So for it to be working, we have to consult the fishermen that is going to affect and the processors wherever they are, and then make sure that we have a plan so that after we've introduced it, how to sustain it so that it works as we want it.
Absolutely. So now let's also look at the consumers aspect of it. You know, this issue is a national emergency, as most of us will not miss out on having our fish with kinke and what have you. So what role can we as consumers play in combating overfishing?
So as consumers, we want quality fish. Where you go buying fish, one of the things that a professor of mine will tell you is that where you go buying fish, you know the price of the fish. Yeah. If you go and the price is cheaper than you are used to, use that as an indicator for quality. It could be because there's something wrong with the fish. Yeah. So as consumers, demand for quality fish. Now there's the Ghana Fisheries Recovery Program, and they are rolling out there's the Safe Fish Certification and Licensing Scheme. So it's for smoked fish, and so you go on the market, look for that fish. It's branded, it's good for you. Wow. And then once you eat that fish, you know that it was sustainably caught, and then you are also helping to reduce overfishing.
Wow.
How time flies, and of course, unfortunately, we have to draw the curtains down. But in 30 seconds, each of you, how can government of Ghana support sustainable fishing practices and prevent overfishing? Dr. First.
Okay, so first of all, we should have the political will. The political will to enforce the laws. We have the laws, we have the allies, we have the Fisheries Act, we have the National Plan of Action, we have the Marine Fisheries Management Plan, we have the Aquaculture Development Plan.
Any of them.
And we have signed on to every international instrument and convention that is conservation conscious. So it is about time we enforced the law. Once we enforce the laws, we should be good to go.
All right. Doc, 30 seconds.
So you said government, but I'll take the people. So we should be law abiding. The fishermen, the processors, we should make sure that we are going fishing the way it should be done. We shouldn't be using illegal shortcut ways just because we want to catch the fish.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Eunice and Dr. Angela, for joining us today to share your expertise and valuable insights. It has been an enlightening discussion. Make sure to tune in same time next week as we continue discussions on all things sustainable development right here on Asaase Radio 99.5 so that people and the planet can prosper. If you have any topics you would like us to discuss, shoot an email to info@cest.org or send a message to our social media platforms at Wayari Ghana. Also, don't forget to vote for my co-host, Emmanuel Aboagye-Wiafe, for the Energy Media Personality of the Year Award to short code *920*86#. Enter nomination code TE5 for the Think Energy SDGs Awards 2023.
Right, thank you so much, Rosemary, and thank you for staying with us on the SDG-Hub. We've been speaking with Dr. Eunice Kanadu Asamoah, lecturer at the Department of Marine and Fisheries Sciences, University of Ghana, and Dr. Angela Manekuor Lamptey, senior lecturer, Department of Marine and Fisheries Sciences, also at the University of Ghana. I've been your host, Emmanuel Aboagye-Wiafe, together with Rosemary. We go back to Beatrice for the wrap-up.